You can take pictures. You can make movies. You have unlimited access to all areas. For the first time in their career, Genesis are allowing someone other than a producer into their studio. Up until now, they have kept everyone else out. They have been private about the creation of their work. Very private. Before now, no one has been allowed behind the scenes at a Genesis recording session. In the past, the producer hasn't even been allowed an assistant in the studio. But now, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Phil Collins are getting together again after spending time on their solo careers. They find themselves in a very public position. Their last album, Invisible Touch, sold many millions of copies and generated 5 hit singles. Now Genesis are under the spotlight in public. They are going to allow a spotlight in private. You are invited to look and listen as they create their first record in 5 years. They are going to write and record the album that will be called We Can't Dance. It will take them 6 months, but they don't know that yet. They just know it will be hard work.
I do most of the work. I write the songs and I sing them and I drum and I play keyboards. But I have to give Tony and Phil a bit of credit so they don't feel left out.
Let's be honest. It's truth time.
Question number 1, boys and girls.
Oh dear, here we go.
Act 1, scene 1. Are you ever surprised people are still interested in you?
Thanks.
Titles. Thank you. It's so long between albums, I suppose. We've got a definite big core of hardcore fans, a large number of hardcore fans. But, you know, sometimes you're surprised that when records selling such great numbers, as the last one did, that people still remember who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking we've been going for 25 years nearly. Oh, I haven't supported any band for more than about 2 albums. Who's got the money?
During this half year, Genesis will be assisted only by their 5 long-standing personal team.
How many people work for you?
There's Howie.
Well, he doesn't work, does he?
No, he doesn't.
I used to be the merchandiser. I used to sell the T-shirts. And I met Pud and Jeff on another tour, Jethro Tull tour, that I was selling the T-shirts for.
I mean, full time, we have about 4 or 5 people, don't we? We have basically the studio staff.
The first band I worked with was Brand X, who Phil was playing in between the Genesis tours and albums. And when they split up, Phil offered me a job, just looking after his drums, which I didn't know anything about at the time, but I learned.
There's a crew. A hardcore crew, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 guys who run the farm and the roadies. I mean, it feels like, to me, quite a small operation, really.
Maintenance, studio manager, keep the studio running. I knew some of the guys that worked with Genesis, because we used to sort of hang out in the same sort of warehouse place. And they were going out on the road, and they needed a technician. And so they offered me a job for 3 months for the tour, and 11 years later I'm still here.
I've worked for Mike since I started, long time. I used to be his roadie, but then when they bought the place, they wanted somebody to look after it, and it was right up my street, really. I liked the idea, so I kind of look after the farm, take care of the general stuff.
We had this dream for years that we'd have our own studio one day. Just the idea that you can go in and write, and the minute you've got a piece of music that sounds good, you can record it. Has always been one of our dreams, I think. And we realized it on the Abercab album. and subsequent albums since then, you know, and things like, one of the best examples is a song like Mama, which was actually written and recorded within hours of actually sort of writing it. It was written and recorded at the same time.
If you're not in Genesis, what band would you like to be in?
Heads.
Chronologue.
Medicine Head.
Jan Dukes de Grey?
Stray.
Well,
Yes.
it goes without saying. I think if you know, in a perfect world, I mean, it would have been lovely to have been that shy, unassuming group, the Beatles. I mean, it would have been lovely to have been a part of that. But in realistic terms, I mean, groups that you play music of, I guess. I mean, Cream would have been a great group to have been in. Yeah, the Beatles, Cream. Can't think of, you know.
Cream. The Beatles. The Beatles Cream.
Genesis' studio is called simply The Farm. It is located in an old farm in the county of Surrey. When they begin an album, the three men have no preconceived ideas of how it will turn out.
Phil,
Yes.
do you think of yourself as a drummer who sings?
Or a singer of drums.
A swinger.
Swinger.
Or a
Well,
swinger.
it goes without saying that I think I'm a swinger kind of guy.
Yes.
A sex
You're a
guy.
drummer or a swinger? Well, hi, fine.
I still think of myself as a drummer that sings, but I think my drumming is still better than my singing.
Oh no.
No. There's one in Respawn, yeah. Next.
When they begin at the farm, they search for interesting sounds they might use on a record.
What I like about the way we work now is that, okay, you miss out one side, which is kind of individual songs, which is a different way of writing. But the idea is that you can do that on your solo career. Phil and Tony and me and Mike and the Mechanics, which is good. And so Genesis we kind of keep now for just going in and writing it together. I think what we do, I mean, it's always so intangible to say what we're all about. There's a certain kind of chemistry that seems to happen when the three of us improvise and play and mess around together and just make sounds. And it seems to me it's the kind of music that we can't do. It's different to what we do on our own. It's a combination of those sort of sounds and ideas.
At the start, Tony and Mike each play without knowing what the other will do, and Phil sings along with whatever comes into his head, nonsense syllables or a group of words, some of which may survive to the record.
Need to sing with it and do a little sort of guitar.
Drum solo.
I'm first.
First one, what?
It's very nice to play the little lead licks.
So what did you say? You said something about vocals.
A lot of these songs.
Yeah?
So if you get in for the singing, you'll be alright. That's it.
There's less lyrics to write, you know. Guitar solo.
Somewhere in there, I feel
Keyboard
if
solo.
rather than come back to a vocal, I don't know where, but
If you don't want me to sing, George, I won't sing. If
you could do.
you want me to sing, I'll sing. If you don't want me to sing, I won't sing. All right? There are disagreements, but only... No, I
missed that, sorry. That's everything.
No, it's okay, you didn't miss much. But I mean, I'm taking over your answer, but over 20 odd years, I think it's, given the track record of most groups, I think it is extraordinary. I'm getting teary-eyed here. But
sweet.
that we actually get
It's
on
very
very well,
sweet.
you know, and we actually get on and we like each other and we have a lot of laughing in the studio, and I think that's very important.
Because they have always been alone when they record, Genesis have come to trust each other with their musical experiments and feel awkward with outsiders.
because of the way we tend to write, which is very much with Phil sort of la-laing his way through things, and Mike is playing guitar, a lot of the time, because Mike is sort of, you know, obviously doesn't know what chord I'm going to play next or something, it's much better to let the thing flow.
It's all in right. By the time I see the children cry, tell me why.
The way I like, I mean, I'm sure we all write words differently, you know, I know we do, but the way I write words is that when we're writing the music, that's to say whether we're writing it as Genesis or whether I'm writing it on my own, I'll improvise while we're writing. And I'll, you know, that's why you have to be around people you know and not have people around you don't know, because a lot of the time you sing rubbish, you know, and a lot of the time we play rubbish. And so you really, you know, you don't care if it's just the three of you. And eventually, if you do that long enough, and you know, over a period of, you know, years, you sort of, you learn to free your mind a bit and just to sort of improvise without even thinking about it. And those words that you improvise, you try and use, or I do.
Back in the mid-70s or something, you know, I think Mike and I tended to dominate the writing very much, you know, that was how it was. And, you know, nowadays I'd say it's very much split between the three of us. And I think in a band I prefer that. It's much better if everyone's got a sort of equal thing, and everyone feels equally kind of responsible for the result and equally proud of the result.
Genesis co-producer and engineer on We Can't Dance, Nick Davis.
We haven't actually got an engineer, but Nick's going to be answering the phone for the
reception. How do you divide the production responsibilities between the band and Nick Davis?
Well, in a sense, you come to depend on the person who's behind the knobs, which in this case is obviously Nick. And it's kind of very difficult to work out the lines because you are all working towards the same thing.
Well, I think the plan is to come in next week and just put guide parts down to the songs that are in a state for doing that. Basic keyboards, basic guitars and drums, and then I think Phil wants to do real drums on songs that need real drums before moving on to the next stage. I think what was just said.
That would be the highlight of the recording.
This is the history of what became a hit song, No Son of Mine, starting from a noise called Elephant.
Please explain the reasons for working titles and give examples.
Working titles. Is it me? Heads or tails?
No, you go. You just answer what you do.
Oh, I see. All right, I'll answer it. Working titles are really just a label you hang on a song so that when you talk about it next time, you remember what you're talking about. It's really just the first thing that comes into your mind, which is going to be something you can remember it by.
This track, what's it called?
Elephant, at the moment. Why? Why? Because of this, I think. I would have thought.
That sort of funny noise here at the beginning was a sort of sample I did of sort of noise in the rehearsal room, which was mainly Mike, but fiddling around with it, playing it backwards and sort of doing funny things to it. And it was really playing that, and as soon as I played that with the chord, we had a song, we knew that.
We were sitting in that room writing, and we came to the chorus, what was to become the chorus. I was singing, no son of mine, no son, you know son. And Mike said to me when we came to writing the lyrics, or dishing out the songs, to saying, well, I'd like to write that one, I'd like to write that one, blah, 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 you know. He said, on that song, it sounds like you're singing No Son of Mine. And I don't know what I was singing, really. I was singing something like that. But then suddenly he put that in my mind, that that's what I'd been singing. And so at that point, I went and wrote the lyrics that made sense of what I'd improvised.